Yesterday, Sayadaw explained the meaning of Savaka mentioned in the commentary Visuddhi Magga. Bhagavato Ovada Nusasane Sakachan Sunanditi Savaka. Savaka means the person who listen and follow attentively, respectfully, the guidance, instruction, and discipline given by the Buddha. So for the person who listen attentively, the instruction, guidance, and discipline given by the Buddha is called a Savaka. And yesterday, Sayadaw also explained that there are many types, many kinds of Savaka. There is a type who are called Savaka just by name. And there are kind of Savaka which is a little bit higher than Savaka by name. And there is the kind of Savaka who are genuine Savaka, genuine disciple or a true disciple. The one who do not have faith and confidence in trustworthy person, the one who do not follow the instruction and discipline, they are not Savaka, they are not disciple. If someone does not follow the instruction and guidance, and if one does not follow the restrictions given by the Buddha, then this kind of person can be called Savaka by name only. And there are those who believe that just by worshipping, just by paying respect, just by depending on Buddha will give everything. So they are this kind of person who believe that one can get everything just by worshipping the Buddha. And because of this belief, they fail to follow the guidance and instruction given by the Buddha, and they fail to refrain from things that should be refrained. They also fail to follow the restrictions. So these persons who have the belief that one can get anything just by worshipping the Buddha and not following the instruction, guidance, and advice, they are not developing any kind of ability. But for those who practice, their ability will increase and increase. But those who only depend on, who only worship the Buddha but does not practice, they will not have their own ability. By understanding the virtues of the Buddha, one should follow the guidance, instruction, and the discipline given by the Buddha. Only then one will become a genuine Savaka, genuine disciple. There are those who do not follow the instruction and guidance given by the Buddha, even though they have the intention to follow the guidance and instruction. Due to certain circumstances, they do not follow the instruction and guidance. So these people are not genuine disciple. In order to become a true disciple, in order to become a genuine Savaka, one needs to follow the instruction and guidance one needs to refrain from things that should be refrained. So one must follow the discipline, one must follow the discipline and discourse given by the Buddha. Only then, by following the instruction, guidance and discipline, one would become a genuine disciple and one will gain benefit. So Sayadaw will explain what is a genuine Savaka, what is a true disciple. A genuine Savaka is the one who follows and listens the guidance and instruction carefully. So to which extent one must follow respectfully to become a genuine Savaka. So this needs to be explained from practical and theoretical aspects. So today Sayadaw will explain based on sub-commentary. So in Visuddhimagga, it is mentioned that Sakkacang Sunambiti Savaka. And the sub-commentarian explained this commentary word, how it explains in the sub-commentary about Sakkaca Savana is that Jathanu Sikkang Satipattanena Kecca Siddhito Ariya Bhavavahang Savana Sakkaca Savana Nama. So here, Jathanu Sikkang means according to the guidance or instruction, guidance and instruction given by the Buddha out of compassion, out of great compassion. So Jathanu Sikkang means in the way Buddha had instructed, Buddha had advised out of compassion, out of great compassion. Buddha had instructed, Buddha had laid down the discipline to refrain from things that should be refrained. So by observing Sila, one is refraining from things that should be refrained. And by sati, by mindfulness, one is said to be preventing and curing the defilements that can arise in the mind. And by developing Vipassana jnana, one is said to be weakening the defilements. And by developing Ariya jnana, supramundane knowledge, one is said to be uprooting the defilements. So Buddha instructed Sila, Samadhi, Panya in order to overcome the defilements. So Buddha gave the method to overcome the defilements by practicing Sila, Samadhi, Panya. As much as one can practice these trainings, Sila, Samadhi, Panya, one will be able to overcome the defilements. By practicing Satipatthana meditation, these trainings, Sila, Samadhi, Panya, are involved in the practice of Satipatthana meditation. So Buddha had instructed out of karuna, out of great compassion, how to overcome these defilements. Buddha instructed to be mindful at the moment of arising. One should be mindful at the moment of seeing, at the moment of hearing, at the moment of smelling, at the moment of tasting, at the moment of touching, at the moment of knowing, and so on. So every time the object arises, every time one sees, every time one hears, every time one smells, every time one tastes, every time one touches, every time one knows, one should be mindful. And during the sitting meditation, there is rising and falling of the abdomen. So one should be mindful at the moment of rising, one should be mindful at the moment of falling. So this applies to all. Whatever object that arises, one should be mindful. So one should be mindful all the time. One should be mindful continuously, whatever the object arises. So this is the advice, Anusasani, advice given by the Buddha. Jathanusita means in accordance with the guidance and instruction given by the Buddha. This Jathanusita means in the way that Buddha had instructed, in the way that Buddha had advised. And Patipattanena means practice, practicing in accordance with the guidance and instruction given by the Buddha. So when there is rising and falling, yogi must not fail to be mindful of this rising and falling. In order to be mindful of the object, one should exert aiming and effort. One should aim the mind towards the object so that the noting mind will be direct or face to face with the object. And one should put effort so that the noting mind is pushed towards the object. So every time one should exert these two factors, aiming and effort, so that one would be mindful of the presently arising object. As long as the yogi can exert these two factors, aiming and effort, then he or she will be able to note, he or she will be able to be mindful of the presently arising object. So the yogi must always be alert and ready and be active to note the presently arising object. So one should take out the effort to note the presently arising object. So here, Patipattanena means to practice according to the given guidance and instruction given by the Buddha. So one should also follow the restrictions set down by the Buddha. By following this discipline given by the Buddha, there will be immediate benefit. So by practicing morality, by refraining from things that should be refrained, the immediate benefit is overcoming the transgressive form of defilement. By observing morality, one will not be committing the transgressions. If one does not follow these restrictions, if one does not follow these disciplines, then one is not performing the task of abandoning the defilement. By following the restriction, by following the discipline, one is said to have done the task of abandoning. By practicing morality, by refraining from killing, stealing, by refraining from sexual misconduct, one's body behavior will be purified. If one does not refrain from these killing and stealing, one's bodily behavior will not be pure. So by observing morality, one is said to be abandoning the vitekama kilesa, transgressive form of kilesa, and thus one's body and speech will be of high class. Ariya Bhavavaha, it means leading oneself to noble state or pure state. By refraining from these transgressions, one's body and speech will be pure. So leading of this pure state is called Ariya Bhavavaha. By practicing, by following the guidance and instruction given by the Buddha respectfully and meticulously, this will lead one's body and speech to become purified. So this is what it means by Ariya Bhavavaha. So by refraining from things which should be refrained, then one is said to have done the task of abandoning these defilements. So by refraining from things that should be refrained, one is said to be doing the task of abandoning these defilements, and thus one's physical behavior, verbal behavior will be pure and clean, and thus it is said to be Ariya. So one should be following these guidance and instruction respectfully. One should keep one's precept clean. One should take care so that one's precept will not be withered. So practicing this morality so as not to break the Sila, so as not to wither the Sila, one's physical, verbal behavior will become purified. So one should refrain from these transgressions by practicing morality training. So by practicing this morality training, one is said to become a Savaka, disciple. Basically, one is said to become basically a Savaka by refraining from these transgressions, by observing the Sila. As per saying, daughter and son must listen to the guidance of the parents, and also good students, good disciples should follow and listen the teaching of a teacher. So one should abandon the Videkama Kilesa by observing morality, by observing the precepts. So as long as one is practicing these teachings systematically, one is said to be doing the task of abandoning the Kilesa. One is keeping one's body and speech pure and clean. So this is what it means by Ariya Bhavavaha. Becoming or leading to the state of Ariya, by becoming or leading to the state of purity by observing the training, Sila, Samadhi, Panya. So in the text, it is explained of the word Ariya in a simple way. Ariyo ti parisuto otamo wa. Ariyo is the person who is pure, clean, blameless in every way, in every angle. If one is not blameless, if one is blameworthy, then one is inferior, one is of low class, and one will be rude, gross, and crude. So it is very low class. Becoming pure, clean, and blameless, one's state will be uplifting. One will be of a high class by becoming purified, clean, and blameless. So one should refrain from these transgressive form of defilement by refraining. So by refraining, by observing this Sila, one is said to be abandoning the gross forms of defilement. So by observing this morality, one's gross form of defilement will be overcome, not permanently but momentarily. So by observing Sila, one is said to be overcoming the gross form of defilement momentarily. And by practicing this morality, one is also said to be free from danger. By practicing morality, one is said to be overcoming the internal enemy, and thus one is also said to be overcoming the external danger. If one is committing these sorts of transgression, whenever one thinks about one's own bad deeds, there will be self-blame. One will not be satisfied with oneself. One cannot respect oneself. So one will be meeting with this danger of self-blame. It is called Attanuvādātaya, the danger of self-blame for those who do not refrain from bad things. The ones who commit bad things will also be blamed by the wise. The wise person will look down on the people who do not refrain from bad things. It is called Paranuvādātaya, the danger of being blamed by the wise. And for those who commit bad things, they will be punished by law. It is called Dandapaya, being punished, being imprisoned, being tortured. These are called Dandapaya, the danger of being punished. And because of these bad intentions, one will be reborn in lower existences. It is called Dugati Saya. It means the danger of being born in lower existences. So by refraining from these bad things, by observing morality, one is said to be overcoming these four kinds of danger. And one is also said to be overcoming the internal enemy. So following the guidance and discipline given by the Buddha, by observing morality, by observing the precepts, one's physical, verbal behavior will become pure, clean. It will become high class. So one's own physical, verbal behavior will become high class only if one can follow the instruction and advice given by the teacher, given by the Buddha. By observing Sila, by observing morality, one is said to become Sila Savaka, which means one is the disciple of the Buddha by means of practicing Sila. So, by following the Buddha's teaching, by observing this morality, one is basically said to be a Savaka by means of observing morality. So, whose teaching and whose instruction one must follow? Bhagavato means Buddha. Buddha, the one who had eradicated all the defilements to the point of no return. So Buddha practiced the Satipatthana meditation, and by practicing Satipatthana meditation, this Buddha to be eradicated these defilements momentarily. And when Buddha attained 4 stages of Magga-phala Jnana, path and fruition knowledge, Buddha eradicated all the defilements to the point of no return. So Buddha himself practiced Buddha himself eradicated all the internal enemies. Buddha had himself eradicated all these defilements. So it is the teaching, it is the instruction and guidance given by the Buddha who himself practiced and eradicated all the internal enemies. So these teachings, these instructions and advices are not imaginary, but it is something that Buddha himself practiced. By refraining from transgressive form of defilement, one's body and speech will be pure, clean, blameless, tame, and gentle. So by overcoming these gross form of defilement, by observing morality, one's bodily behavior and verbal behavior will be pure, clean, gentle, tame. So it is very satisfying to have this purity of body and speech. So this purity of body and speech is not given by the Buddha. Buddha only guided the way to purify body and speech, but Buddha cannot give the purity of body and speech, but Buddha only could guide the way. Buddha only could give instruction, but one must practice oneself so as to have this purity of body and speech. So this purity of body and speech is not given by the Buddha. It cannot be given by a creator. One must practice oneself to gain this purity of body and speech. It cannot be given by any creator. It cannot be gained by reciting verses. It cannot be gained by listening to discourses. It cannot be gained by going pilgrimage to pagodas or stupas. But one should practice oneself to gain this purity of body and speech. So in order to gain this purity of body and speech, one should know that this physical, verbal, mental misconduct are things which are disgusting and fearsome. Having this knowledge that these evil conduct by body and speech are fearful and are fearsome and disgusting, one should refrain from them. So whatever thing one wants, one should work for it. One should put effort so that one gets what one wants. So if one does not practice, then one's ability will be lost. One will not have one's own ability. One will be losing ability, and then one will become inferior person. So one should practice with effort so that one's body and speech will be purified. In order to do this, one should follow the teaching of the Buddha, who himself eradicated all these defilements himself. So one should fulfill the training of learning, practicing, and making effort repeatedly again and again. So in order to practice the Sila training, one should have Saddha. One should have Saddha. If one's Saddha is prominent, then one will be able to practice this Sila training. So it needs Saddha, faith and confidence to be able to practice the Sila training. One should have faith and confidence one should be determined to refrain from physical, verbal, bad behavior so that one can overcome the gross form of defilement, gross kilesa. In order to do this, one should have discussed over the bad actions. One should believe that these things are bad behavior. By committing these transgressions, it will lead to bad benefits. So one should have discussed over these misconduct. One should refrain from them. By refraining these misconduct, one's body and speech will automatically become pure and clean. But nowadays there are people who say that morality or precepts are not necessary. They think that it is enough to have good intention. So they think good intention is enough. One does not need to observe precepts. So nowadays there are people who believe like that. It is not so. If one does not have sada, then they do not give priority to Sila. So one should have determination, one should have sada in order to be able to practice the Sila training. Only those who have this sada will be able to refrain from misconduct by body and speech. So as much as one can refrain from these misconduct, one will be free from these transgressions, and one will be walking on the path of truth. One will be walking straight on the path. So by observing morality, one is said to be abandoning the gross form of defilement. One is said to be doing, or one is said to be having done the task of abandoning. And by observing morality, one's body and speech will be pure, clean, gentle. This is the immediate benefit of observing morality. By observing these precepts, one will be having this victory over the internal enemy, and one is said to be overcoming the four kinds of danger. In this way, one is morally upgraded by observing morality. So having or keeping one's precepts pure and clean, one is said to be a genuine Savaka. One is said to be a genuine Savaka. One is basically a Savaka by practicing this Sila. So those of you who are here, who have taken the precepts, who are keeping the precepts, one precept, pure and clean, is said to be a Savaka, not just theoretically, but by practice. So Sayadaw will continue tomorrow. Sadhu, 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 sadhu.